Hi, Leanne Donoghue-Tamplin here. A lot of women question whether their relationship is controlling or not. So they may feel quite good in the relationship and there's a lot of really good things going on, but there are times when they wonder if what's happening is okay, normal, or if there's a problem. So let's talk a bit about that today so that you can be better able to assess that for yourself in the future. Firstly, the components of a healthy relationship are important to know. Firstly, conflict is absolutely fine. So relationships, and when you're in a relationship with someone, you do argue and you do disagree, and that's quite normal and fine. But the power between the two people in the relationship needs to be equal. Neither person should feel unsafe. They always should feel okay about expressing themselves and being themselves. The relationship should be founded on listening to one another and understanding one another and respecting each other's needs and goals. So there might be times when decision making is about one person rather than the other, and then there are times when that might change, when one person's needs or goals are more important at that time than the others. But that always needs to be in a framework of equality and fairness. So when a relationship is more controlling, there's a real inequity in it. So there's one person holds more power than another. If you're thinking that you're maybe in a controlling relationship, you're probably feeling like your voice is never being heard. That you don't have any choices or any freedoms, that the things you do are being monitored or kind of supervised, and then you're in some way reprimanded when you step outside those lines. You don't trust that your partner is looking after your best interest, that they're more focused on their own needs and not on yours. There may be violence involved or the threat of violence, but there isn't always. That isn't essential to any relationship where there is controlling involved. But you may be fearful of the repercussions of speaking your mind, whether that is because of violence, but it could also just be, game playing that is done by your partner. So if you stand up for yourself, they don't talk to you for 3 days, or something like that, that really forces you to be someone you're not so that you don't have to deal with those repercussions. Now, the long-term effects of being in a controlling relationship is that you can start to believe that what your partner says is true. So frequently they will blame you for their behaviour. There's often no internal accountability for their actions. So whenever something goes wrong, it's, well, that's because of what you did. And you can start, if you hear that over and over again, that's how beliefs are formed, and you will start to believe your partner and maybe I am the cause of all this problem. So that stops you from trusting yourself and stops you from believing in yourself and your own independence and your ability to overcome things. So you feel powerless, you can feel useless, you can be afraid, constantly afraid of the repercussions and, walking on eggshells and making sure things don't go wrong. You can feel like you can't be yourself and that you're always blaming yourself for everything. It just stops just being about your partner's responses and starts being about everything. I'm an idiot. I make everything go wrong. If I could just do something right, we wouldn't be in this position. It's all my fault. Suppose if you reflect on your relationship and you're thinking a lot of those things are happening in my relationship, a lot of those controlling things are happening and it's making me feel uncomfortable, I would suggest that you need to have a really good think about if this is where you want to be. You might start by trying to have a conversation with your partner about that. You may feel that that's hopeless and pointless and you don't want to do it. And I think you've got to trust your own instinct about that. But if you can, maybe do raise it. I mean, if it's not so significant, or it's some of those things I mentioned that are in controlling relationships, but not all, then maybe you do want to bring it up and just say, sometimes I feel intimidated, or sometimes I feel you don't trust what I say. and see if you can have a conversation and try and change that. You may decide that based on that you can stay. If we can address these issues, I can stay. Sometimes you can get your partner to go to couple counselling, and you can address those issues with someone who can help you work through them and identify ways to change them, which is a really great outcome. Or you may feel that you've got to leave the relationship. There's no chance of change, and this is the way it's going to be if I stay. It's always worth getting support. That might be just someone in your life that you trust and you feel is able to handle this kind of a conversation and won't judge you and add to those negative beliefs that your partner is building up. So that's going to reinforce, no, you're a great person, and you've got lots of independence and you're capable, and it's really good to have someone like that in your team if you have one. If you don't, though, you can always go to psychologists and social workers or any other mental health professional, or the domestic violence services that are around. Domestic violence is a term that people with these kinds of relationships without any physical violence will often feel don't apply to them, but they actually do. The term is more global than it sounds. It includes all those kinds of controlling behaviours, emotional manipulation, verbal abuse. It doesn't have to be anything as severe as physical violence, although that obviously is also a part of domestic violence. Those kind of services are great because they've got all the information about what happens in domestic violence and the consistent themes that we see. And when you realise that this isn't about you and it isn't about your partner, this is actually a pattern that happens frequently, that can make a huge difference in terms of your understanding of the process and then your ability to take it into your hands and take control of the situation yourself. All right, hope that you're not in a controlling relationship. So I hope that the outcome of that discussion is that you realise that you're in a safe and healthy relationship. But if not, reach out, get support, and make it change. Thanks for listening.